Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the ShareLife Speaker Series event, Making the Holidays Happy Again. My name is Chris Dimitrenko, and I'm the Communications Manager of ShareLife. Now, I'd like to introduce our presenter today. So thrilled to have her with us. Mahnoor Shaikh is a registered psychotherapist who holds a master's in clinical psychology, and she has experience of more than 6 years in providing psychotherapy to individuals, couples, and families. She has been working with Catholic Family Services Peel-Dufferin, which is an agency supported through ShareLife. And I'd like to turn it over to you now, Mahnoor.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm really happy to be here doing this workshop. I'm really excited about this. And I'm really excited about the question and answers that you guys might have for me when I'm done presenting. So I really look forward to presenting to ShareLife today. So I've talked about stress a lot during my work, and I've done a lot of workshops on stress management, but this one stands out for me because this particularly talks about stress during the holidays. We're first going to be generally talking about what stress is and what it looks like, what's the impact of stress, and then slowly moving towards how it feels like during Christmas or the holidays, days leading up to Christmas per se. Okay, I'm going to be sharing my screen now. Can everybody see my screen? Okay, awesome. Okay. So like I said, we're going to be talking about stress and self-care, and we're going to be focusing on how we're going to be mindfully managing stress during the holidays or the time leading up to Christmas. So in order to understand stress or how to manage it mindfully, it's very important to first identify what stress is. I know it may sound like stress is like this monster that's always like weighing down on us and it makes us suffer, but stress actually is not all that bad, right? Because stress itself is just a normal response to any kind of stressors or any kind of experiences or to certain situations that you might face. And believe it or not, some stress is actually very positive and good. It's actually good for you. So for example, if you had a test the next day or a job interview the next day, it would motivate you to do better. That kind of stress would actually be really, really good for you. However, if stress is prolonged and activated from a very long time and it's ongoing, that's when it starts becoming very detrimental for your mental health. Also, it's important to understand that the subjective experience of stress varies from one person to another, which means that I could be experiencing the same event in a different way than you would, right? So if it's, for example, again, the holidays or Christmas, it can be a very joyful time for someone, but for the other person, it can be very, very different. So stress evokes different reactions in all of us. Okay, so when we think about stress or when we talk about stress, it's very important to see that there's different types. Again, there's the brief positive stress, which is just normal day-to-day stuff like a meeting or running late to work. That's it, right? So this is just characterized when you have mild elevations in your hormones, brief increase in heart rate, but then it's stabilized. Then there is some level of serious stress, which is tolerable, which could be serious stress, but it's still tolerable because you have supportive relationships to buffer it, and then you're able to overcome it. For example, a serious life event, maybe an injury or a health condition that you're facing, it gets treated and you're out of it, and you have support around you to help you overcome that stress or deal with that stress. The level of stress which becomes toxic is prolonged activated stress, right? This is when you do not have the support or the people around you to understand the kind of stress you're feeling. And this has been going on from some time, which starts impacting every aspect of your life, right? So it would impact your well-being, be it physical, mental, emotional, cognitive. So this is impacting you in a lot of different ways without sometimes even you realizing that it's stress that's doing it to me. So that is the kind of stress we want to avoid and we want to deal with mindfully. Now, again, sources of stress, which means what stress is actually derived from, could be different from person to person. But generally, what causes stress among individuals is, all of these that are right there in front of you. And again, it could be very different for me. It could be very different for somebody else. For somebody, it could be a combination of different things. For somebody, it could just be one thing. So usually when we deal with stress, we see that some of the sources of stress are being concerned about your health. If there's an illness, or for example, COVID, or anything like that, that is of concern to you related to your health, can be a cause of stress. Definitely financial difficulties, and definitely one of the reasons holidays become very stressful, right? So worrying about the holidays in terms of finances, and finances in general, right? Paying mortgage, paying rent, being able to provide for your family, especially again during the pandemic when employment has been a struggle for a lot of people. Relationship difficulties. Now, these could be anywhere. These could be at your workplace, at your house, with your kids, with your spouse, with your parents, with in-laws. So any kind of relationship difficulties can be very stressful, and they can impact different areas of your life. Changes in your work or employment status, issues with children, stepchildren, if you're in blended families, major events like birth of a child, divorce, migration, separation, any kind of trauma, being a victim of crime or accident, changes in responsibilities, facing difficulties at your workplace, if it's a toxic environment, if you're not getting along with your boss or your manager or even your colleagues, experiencing loss of any kind, experiencing bereavement, grief, legal issues, again, the pandemic, of course, and of course, what we're going to be focusing on, the holidays, being stressed out during this season. So previously, like a few years back, when we would talk about stress, there was absence of this conversation around COVID-19, but there's absolutely no denying as to why COVID-19 has added to a lot of stress levels, right? What the pandemic has brought with itself is not just the disease, but there's so many other factors that have impacted all of us on different levels, like employment or unemployment, online schooling, right? So kids being at home all the time and being able to manage that, especially if you're working from home, that has added to a lot of the stress. Navigating the news, what is real and what is not. So just when you think that this is over, something comes up, right? I mean, honestly, personally, I thought this was over. I was very happy because it was too good to be true. I didn't experience or express too much excitement about this because I was like, this is really happening. I'm finally going back to the mall, or I'm going to be meeting my dad, and I'm going to be catching that flight back home. And then you hear there's a new variant, which is, I don't even know, the vaccine might not even work, right? So it is stressful for me. It's very stressful, no matter how much I try to avoid it or say that it doesn't matter. It definitely matters and impacts how I feel during the day. Worrying about social distancing. Sometimes I go to the mall and I think, wow, it really is over. People really don't care. Like everybody's just walking so close, but that stress is kind of still there because you're worried about sitting too close to someone or going to the cinema or sharing the same bench with people, right? So stress, generally, anxiety and depression is this another pandemic that has come about, which is the mental health pandemic that people are, not too aware of, but are experiencing a lot, along with the pandemic of COVID-19. So stress levels generally have been elevated during COVID, right? A big factor here is uncertainty, not knowing when it will be over, like I said. So that adds to your stress levels. And when I think about it, last year, we were celebrating Christmas at home with our family members. And this year it's hopefully going to be different. But how do we process that, right? Is it even going to happen? Because again, there's this new variant, cases are rising. So, all of this adds to your already added stress plate. So COVID has added a lot to that. Now, when I read this question, can joy and stress go hand in hand? And Chris really put it beautifully, where he said that holidays can be triggering for some people, but as a Catholic, you might feel very guilty for even saying that, because you should practice gratitude. You should be very happy and merry with the days leading up to Christmas. But believe it or not, when they did a survey, they found out that 44% people admitted to being very stressed during the holidays, citing finances as the main reason for their stress. In that list was a lot of other things like experiencing loss, depression, mental health struggles, or not getting along with close family members. So yes, for many people, Christmas and the holidays in itself can feel like an unwanted commitment filled with tension. And they sometimes experience a lot of shame and guilt for that, right? But it's very normal and it does happen. People may not talk about it as much, but it definitely does happen. Sometimes it can be just about worrying about what kind of presents to get for people, or it can be worrying about how to afford those presents in the first place, right? Hosting or meeting people that you don't get along with. So it can be a very different experience for a lot of people during this time. Um, if we look at how it happens or what people experience that makes the holiday season not so joyful for them, as I discussed, finances, clothes, food, spending time with loved ones that we may not be comfortable with. Some people are not okay with too much togetherness, while there are some people who do not have enough togetherness, so they perhaps don't have people to spend the holidays with. We were just, looking at a client the other day who had lost both of her parents to COVID-19, just like in the summer. And she said, I don't know how I'll ever be able to feel happy again. So just thinking about her right now, the first Christmas without her own parents, how stressful it's going to be, right? So it's very hard for some people. Hosting, right? I mean, it can be very exhausting, very anxiety provoking for a lot of people because some people aim for perfection, and when they don't achieve it, it can be a very stressful time. Also, one thing that I feel is not enough talked about is seasonal affective disorder, which is also known as winter depression, that a lot of people face during this time of the year, where they experience cycles of depression. So for them, Christmas can actually be a very depressing time, just not as happy as it is for others. Stressed out about meeting people after being isolated for so long due to COVID-19. I've heard a lot of people say, I've forgotten how it is like to be in the mall. And that's me, because I really don't know how malls give me a headache now, because I've gotten very used to it being at home or sitting at a restaurant and sharing a meal, because all of those we were out of those experiences for almost 2 years. So transitioning back into this is harder for some people, like more than you would think, especially people who experience social anxiety. Okay. So for them, being able to connect again with people is very scary. Um, if somebody is going through separation, divorce, loss, bereavement, grief of any kind, this period is going to be very difficult for them. If you know someone or if you are someone who's currently sharing custody of children, and if, especially if you don't get along well with your ex-partner or the mother of your children or the father of your children, this can be a very stressful time. How do you divide the time? How do you make sure your kids get the best of the holidays? Worrying about your health, managing work-life balance, also feeling responsible for making everyone happy. I've noticed this a lot during Christmas and the holiday season, that there's so much focus on perfectionism, making everything look perfect, making all the gifts look perfect, that you kind of forget how to be in the moment or enjoy, the true sense of the holidays. So yes, based on all of these, it is very normal for stress and joy to go hand in hand and to experience higher levels of stress, especially during this time. So when we talk about stress, just know that the impact of stress sometimes is very severe, and we may, like I said, not even be aware of it because there's no sign on your face that would say, oh, you're stressed out, right? But the impact you can definitely see in many different levels of your life. So, for example, it will impact your body, your mind, your emotions, and your behavior. How? Well, you're if you're showing physical signs of stress, that could be showing in experiencing unexplained headaches, migraines, even prolonged ones, not feeling hungry or feeling too hungry, stress eating, which is also known as um, feeling this heaviness in your chest and not knowing what it is. Sometimes people say, oh, my heart hurts, or it's this. They go to the ER to get it checked out, they get an ECG done, and they're like, no, it's everything is okay, you're just stressed out, because it really is just stress, right? Experiencing a lot of neck and shoulder pains and back pains. These are actually known as stress pains. These are points of stress because when we're stressed out, our shoulders are so tight, right? So all of that anxiety and that stress kind of adds up here. And so experiencing a lot of those shoulder pains and neck pains and back pains, unexplained ones, right, that don't even have a cause, are attributed to stress. A lot of stomach issues like um, diarrhea, constipation, nausea, a lot of these things are attributed to stress. I've heard a lot of people say that, first thing in the morning, I just can't eat. I feel so sick because you're stressed out about your day. You're perhaps worrying or anxious about something during the day, which causes stomach issues or issues in the GIT, which is the gastrointestinal tract, right? So this is how these are the physical signs of stress. Now, what are the mental symptoms of stress, right? Definitely poor concentration. You'll feel like you're not able to focus at work or whatever task it is that you're doing. You'll lose focus. You'll be finding yourself making a lot of errors that you normally wouldn't make, and then saying, "Oh, I knew this. How could I do this?" Right? This is so silly of me. Poor decision-making skills, so not being able to decide, and this sometimes happens because your confidence level gets low. Your self-esteem suffers, right? Because you're constantly questioning yourself. Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? And sometimes this can lead us to asking for constant reassurances from people. Is this okay? Does this look okay? So a lot of those sort of decision-making skills get impacted. Poor problem-solving skills, irrational thinking. We might develop fears perhaps that we didn't have before. Definitely overthinking, right? Rumination, like finding yourself thinking about the same thing over and over again, and then asking yourself the same question over and over again. Forgetting where you kept the keys, forgetting where you kept that plate, forgetting where you kept your phone again and again, even though, I mean, you think you'd remember, but forgetting names even, right? So a lot of forgetfulness is a mental sign of stress. Being paranoid, being scared easily, being alerted easily, and definitely your attention span suffers if you're stressed out. Okay. Then we look at the behavioral symptoms of stress. Um, Experiencing unexplained anger, not even realizing why you got so angry at something that didn't even warrant you feeling that angry or experiencing that much anger. Overeating, finding yourself eating more than usual. Changes in sleep, which means that you're either sleeping too much or not sleeping much. Substance use, this is very important. So a lot of people, when they're stressed out, in order to numb those effects of stress, would resort to alcohol use or use of drugs and increase smoking, right? If you've been prescribed sedatives or tranquilizers, you'll find yourself reaching out for them more because they numb this impact of stress temporarily. Frequent absences or being late to work more often is also a sign of stress. Experiencing a lot of irritability at your workplace or even at home with your partner or your kids and not being able to understand why can also be attributed to stress. And of course, this makes your relationship with people suffer, right? Because you're not your best self and because your overall well-being is impacted. So that's why that happens. Of course, now that we know we may be stressed out, how do we manage it in a healthy way? Before understanding how to manage it in a healthy way, I think it's important to talk about some of the unhealthy ways that people resort to when they are experiencing stress, prolonged stress specifically. Like I mentioned, drinking or using substances to cope with stress. Because what that does is it temporarily blocks it out. But when the effect wears off, it's back to square one. You feel it more than ever. And sometimes you might feel even worse for resorting to that substance or alcohol for dealing with that stress. Staying up late, arguing and fighting with family members or your partner, avoiding dealing with the source of stress. Now, this can be done in a number of different ways. A lot of people find themselves sleeping more in order to avoid, and they might not consciously know that they're doing that, but they're just doing it to avoid the source of stress. Watching more TV, watching more Netflix, playing more video games, isolating yourself, And then there's this thing that a lot of people do when they're stressed out is they take on more work. And I know while people may be glorified for being such a hard worker or working like 14 hours a day, 15 hours a day, I understand that sometimes it's done because of the financial reasons. But if you're doing that just to avoid stress or avoid dealing with the source of stress, what it can do is it can actually add to the cycle of your stress even more. Because overworking like that is actually considered self-harm. And when you're stressed out, sometimes a way to deal with it is by avoiding your partner or not talking to your children enough or just isolating yourself, not meeting family and friends, right? So these are some of the unhealthy ways to deal with it. Some healthy ways, however, to manage stress are definitely meditation, mindfulness, and prayer. There's a lot of power in just slowing down and being mindful of things, practicing meditation and getting engaged in a lot of praying activities. That's really helpful. Moving your body, exercise is known like 110% to deal with stress because it scientifically releases happy hormones when you move your body. It deals with the effects of stress. Talking with a trusted person, and by a trusted person, I mean somebody who validates you, somebody who understands your experiences, not dismisses you, right? So if you're telling someone you're stressed out, they're just not telling you to be grateful, right? They're understanding where you're coming from, extending empathy, and then sharing support. Definitely visiting family and friends, going for walks, and getting enough rest, and definitely a good diet. Now, mindfully managing stress during the holidays is very important, which is why I want to spend some time talking about this. What exactly is mindfulness when you think about mindfully doing this, practicing mindfulness? So, mindfulness is just the basic human ability to be fully present and aware wherever you are, okay? Without being overly reactive or feeling overwhelmed with our surroundings, just being present, just being more aware. It's the human ability to do that. So when I say mindfully managing stress, what I mean is by being fully present and aware where you are, you trying out these things to deal with the holiday stress that you might be feeling, right? If you don't feel that good about the holidays, or if you just feel a bit stressed out, or if you feel like some of the negative emotions coming on, firstly, you just have to acknowledge and allow your feelings to happen, right? And by that, I mean accepting that, okay, I may not be feeling too good about this. That doesn't mean you have to like it. What it means is you're just acknowledging and accepting your emotion and validating yourself. And this, because it's the season of giving, you're going to have to extend to others also if they say something to you about this, that I don't feel so good about Christmas this year, or I don't know why I don't feel like celebrating this year. So sharing that same acceptance and empathy and acknowledgement that you would do for yourself, do this for others also. There was a research, actually, I think it was Dr. Jill, it was in the Harvard paper that I actually read about and even heard at a training. They talked about how when you accept and acknowledge an emotion or a feeling, its impact drops drastically. And you can almost overcome it in 90 seconds. I think that's what it said. So basically, just accepting yourself and what you feel is the first step to dealing with your stressors. So just identifying and accepting and allowing yourself to feel whatever it is you're feeling and doing the same for others when they express it to you. Definitely reach out for support if you need it. This could be with your friends and family members, people who you're comfortable talking to, and tell them what your stressors are. Are you worried about finances? Are you worried about meeting people? Are you worried about some kind of loss that you're facing, right? So just open up instead of keeping to yourself. There is support available. We just need to get up and ask for it sometimes. Another thing that I mentioned before, why we experience stress during the holidays, it's because we focus so much on perfection. I want the perfect tree. I want the perfect ornaments. I want the perfect presents, the perfect clothes, the perfect breakfast, perhaps, or the perfect feast. A lot of this perfection we aim for. I think what we need to normalize in our homes is imperfection. Perfection is not realistic, right? Imperfection is. It does not have to be perfect. Ask yourself, when we're focused so much on the idea of being perfect, to others, especially, are we really having a good time with our kids and our families? Are we really there in the moment with our kids, making those memories that we should be making? So be realistic, set realistic expectations of yourself. And the next time you feel the urge to be perfect, just tell yourself that I'm not going to lose my mind over it, right? Because it's not worth it. This is giving me a lot of stress, and feel that stress in your body. Identify where you're feeling it, right? Were you more angrier than usual today? Are you more irritable than usual? Are you finding yourself being more crabby, right? Because you're in a mood, right? So identify what your focus on perfectionism is leading you to do. Um, Definitely stick to a budget. I've seen a lot of people do this, and I can be very guilty. I will make a budget and not follow it because I'll be so tempted if I go to the market and the malls, and if I see gifts. If I wanted to buy someone a $30 gift, I'll end up buying them a $50 gift because why not, right? But at the end of the day, when I see my credit card statements, they're giving me stress, right? So be kind of firm about this, that, okay, this is what I can afford, and that's okay, right? So when I say don't aim for perfection, it's also about sticking to a budget, knowing what you can do and setting those boundaries for yourself, right? That way, it won't give you more stress for the future when you have to pay those credit card bills, right? um, Plan ahead. A lot of the times we're unable to do, we sometimes get so anxious, we don't plan, right? What that does is it leads us to being very like cramming towards the end, and that's not nice, right? So just have a list maybe a few weeks before and just plan ahead. Get into the habit of making lists, planning ahead, watching videos on how to do this, or even getting support with this. This one is very important and something I really advocate for, which is boundaries, right? If there's a gathering you don't want to attend, if there are people you don't want to meet, and you know that being around them evokes negative feelings in you, or you feel like there's toxicity in the air, or it's just not good for your overall being, learn to say no. Okay? Standing up for yourself and setting boundaries is not easy because it's not usually what we do. So it comes with a bit of anxiety. But once you've done that for yourself, it's a part of your self-care. If there's something you don't believe in, if there's something you don't want to attend, if there's something that you know is not good for you or your well-being, learn to say no. Use your no's, right? Because it's just you standing up for yourself at the end of the day, and you kind of you deserve to do that. Okay. Definitely take a breather, slow down. It doesn't, like I said, have to be perfect. You don't have to rush with everything during the holidays, even though it may seem like there's not enough time. There's not enough time. There is enough time. This is what you tell yourself. You slow down when you need to. Definitely remember the purpose of celebration. Why are we doing this? What does this season really mean? What do the holidays really mean? Why did we even start celebrating this in the first place, right? So just slowing down and remembering those things will help you find your center again. And you'll see that we're getting involved in a lot of material and worldly things based on this race that we're in, right? So it's important for us to slow down and see what the purpose of celebration really is. Definitely unplug. This is one time of the year where I see everybody getting time off, right? So this is one time when you should be together as a family. It's important for you to keep those cell phones down, sit with your family members, make those memories, and really just not worry about work or I don't know, anything. I know that it can be hard, but actively make that choice for yourself, right? So you're more mindful if you're stressed out about work, perhaps like during the holidays. The last thing is very important and very, again, very, very important. Like I said, if you feel like you need to reach out for support, this is getting too much for you, seek professional help as needed because it is available for you. It's very important that you seek the right kind of help because sometimes we rely on our partner, our parents, our siblings, and our friends to be our therapists, and that's not possible because they're emotionally linked with us. They might not be equipped with the right kind of tools to help us. So seek professional help if this has been an ongoing issue for you. Lastly, engage in gratitude, right? Practice being consciously grateful by writing down each morning 5 things you are grateful for. You don't have to write this down. I just sometimes just tell my clients, just think about it the first thing you wake up in the morning. What am I grateful for today, right? Um, I am grateful for my ability to see, right? I'm grateful for my ability to even walk or to eat fresh food or I don't know, just be alive, right? Anything that you do. Once you start doing this, you will see how much it recenters your mind and helps you focus and find your center, right? And it makes a huge impact on the perspective that we, take with us when we approach the holiday season. I would like to end by saying this to you guys. Now, faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. It's very important to have faith and understand that whatever it is that we're experiencing, we will get through this. And we just have to be strong. And again, like I said, reach out for support because it can be, I understand it can be a very difficult time for some people who are experiencing a lot of difficult struggles right now in their lives. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mahnoor, for all of these insights that you've shared with us. Some really important tips, and certainly want to highlight that last one about seeking help if you need it. And Catholic Family Services Peel-Dufferin is one of the Catholic Family Services agencies located throughout the Archdiocese of Toronto that can provide that support and can provide that support regardless of one's financial position or their background. And I wanted to ask you, well, first of all, I'll just pause to say that if you have a question, you can ask that question in the chat. And you're welcome to, it'll give you that option in the chat to either direct that question to me or to the group. You're welcome to do either. Both are quite all right. Just have to unmute Mahnoor. Okay, there we go.
Thank you.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, Catholic Family Services agencies are funded in large part through ShareLife, and I know a lot of the people who are participating in this webinar today know about it because they have supported ShareLife through the parish. And so my first question, before we get into ones that are a little bit more related to the topic, and this will also give people an opportunity to add their questions to the chat. What does the support of the individuals who give to ShareLife mean for the work of Catholic Family Services and the work that you do?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that because at Catholic Family Services of Peel-Dufferin, what we do is we work towards strengthening and enhancing individual, family, and community life, right? At Catholic Family Services of Peel-Dufferin, we support individuals, families, couples in group and individual settings who have experienced serious issues of trauma, domestic violence, depression, anxiety, and many ongoing struggles. We answer thousands of calls each year. And how are we able to do this? It's with the contribution that all of you make to ShareLife. So I just, I feel like in this ongoing, at Catholic Family Services, we're actively working towards ending the cycle of violence even in the community. And it's thanks to all of you and all the people who have been contributing to ShareLife who make this happen. And everyone, all of you who contribute are walking with us and walking with the people we serve by contributing to ShareLife, because without it, it would not be possible at all for us to be able to do this. What we provide to these families means so much to them. And I see the difference that it makes in their lives. We might not even have enough time, like I can get into stories, but it's just the amount of difference that the funding makes, So the contribution that all of you are making to ShareLife is changing lives on a daily basis. Families, it's amazing. So thank you.
I appreciate that, Mahnoor, and I want to also, thank everybody who is participating, who has supported ShareLife, because the work that Catholic Family Services Agencies is doing, especially now during the pandemic, is really amazing. A question that we have here in the chat: how does one tell if we are self-isolating as a result of stress, since we're in a global pandemic, versus being cautious around our contacts as part of public health measures? So that sense of isolation, yeah, when do you know that it's a symptom of the pandemic or the symptom of stress?
That's a very interesting question. I think it's a question one would ask oneself when they're experiencing this. Is this pertaining to a particular situation? Are you isolating from a lot of things around you, or is it just one thing or a few things? Maybe sitting down with that and really exploring what it is that's holding me back. So yes, on surface level, it could be the public health measures, but when they're lifted and when they're saying it's safe for you perhaps to be in a mall, what's really stopping you, right? Is it your own stressors, your own fears around contracting COVID-19, or is it just you being extra careful? So I think that's something that you need to explore within yourself and see the severity of it. Now, are those fears just limited to one setting, or is it like different settings, right? So am I just avoiding going to the mall or going to school, or, like, am I selective with this? So identifying that, I think would be very important.
Another question for those whose families are affected by grief, whether it's divorce or the loss of a family member, it's difficult to see Christmas as a happy time, and the narrative kind of becomes, this is now a sad time, because how could it ever possibly be happy without this person who's no longer there? And this very dark cloud hangs over the event. How do you go, and you know that you can never have that nostalgic notion of what that event used to be. You can't go back to the way things were. So how do you flip the script on that and find a way to make it an opportunity for celebration again?
Yes, very important question. And I feel like this is so important considering that we're also experiencing loss as a community due to COVID-19, because so many lives have been lost to the disease as well. So there's general feeling of loss. But to answer your question, if somebody's experienced loss in their family and it's hard for them to look at the holidays or Christmas the same way, I think allowing yourself time to heal and recover from this, because understanding that grief is a process, right? We may be at different stages. Not all of us process grief the same way. So if there's been a death in one family, and there's like 3 siblings or 3 family members, they're all experiencing loss at different levels. So just meeting every family member where they are and respecting what they want to be doing, but also extending support to them, that's saying, okay, do you need help processing this? Should we talk to a professional about this? Because I mean, it's okay if we don't do one Christmas, but if it's 2 Christmases in a row and then 3, we really want to address what's stopping this person, and also normalizing the new normal. Like, how would the person that I really miss during the holidays want me to spend the holidays? Remembering that, right? And if it makes it better for them to honor the person they've lost during the holiday season or during Christmas, make sure that that person is still a part of the celebration, just in a different way. That could be making their favorite meal, donating to their favorite cause, or anything that would make this person happy. I think finding a new normal around celebrating the holidays, right? Because I understand people can feel very guilty even celebrating after they've experienced loss very recently. So just remembering, what would this person want me to do during the holidays? And if I don't feel like celebrating the usual way, what are the new ways I can do this? Can I honor my loved one during the holidays or on Christmas by doing something that would mean a lot to them? So I think changing the ways you celebrate, but still celebrating, if that makes sense.
Okay. Now, another question about seasonal effectiveness disorder. So We can't really do anything about the loss of light when the clocks changed and suddenly now it's getting dark at 4 o'clock. And we've got, I guess, until what is it, the 21st before things start going in the other direction again with the equinox. So what do we do about that?
Good question. And there's with the forces of nature, nothing. And if there was I remember discussing this with someone, if there was a politician who would reverse the daylight saving rule, I would vote for them. What can we do is definitely work on how we react to it, being more mindful about what it does to us, how it impacts us, what's the severity level of my seasonal affective disorder or depression. Is it something that's really constant and completely paralyzes me? Is it something that I'm able to recover by accessing therapy or accessing support? Being more mindful of it. I know a lot of people with SAD, seasonal affective disorder, that need to be prescribed medication this time of the year. And that's okay, because you do what you need to do to survive and to make this better for you. Access support, talk to people, journal. Chris, actually, you get these lights that mimic daylight, and people have actually used this for seasonal affective disorder.
Do they work?
Well, different responses to this, but sometimes, it's not natural, but they need light to mimic daylight. So definitely it's different. Like I said, it's a subjective experience of just having seasonal affective depression. Everybody experiences it at a different level. So my point is, what you can do is just be more mindful and aware of what it does to you, how deeply it impacts you, and then access the right kind of support for it. Also, know that this will be over soon, right? Nothing lasts forever. No season lasts forever. So almost just telling yourself this too shall pass. But sometimes, like I said, that's not enough. You may need to seek out professional help for it, because it can lead to serious clinical depression, even in a lot of people.
Okay, that leads to another one of our questions here. And we have an opportunity for a few more questions. Again, to do so, it's you scroll down to the chat button, and that will give you an opportunity to direct your question. Either you can direct it towards me, or you can just open it up to everyone. But the next question is regarding what kind of professional help is available through Catholic Family Services Peel-Dufferin. So if someone is feeling like they're struggling and they need some kind of support, perhaps they've never sought counseling services before, what can they expect? What can they access?
Catholic Family Services right now is operating only virtually and over the phone due to the pandemic, but we're very active in answering calls and doing intakes. So you would call the direct line and schedule a walk-in session. First, the intake coordinators will take your intake and then refer you for a walk-in session, which is a single session drop-in, sort of like walk-in counseling, but virtual or over the phone. So perhaps one of the counselors, like I'm a therapist there, I would call the person and see what their struggles are and refer them to the right kind of services. Catholic Family Services offers walk-in single sessions and individual, couples, family, and group settings. We also offer counseling sessions for children through our HEAL program. There's counseling sessions for survivors of domestic violence through the Safe Center of Peel, and just general walk-in sessions. If you feel like you're struggling with anything and need help with anything, definitely call the number, the Catholic Family Services number. The intake line will definitely schedule you for the next available walk-in appointment.
Okay. Now, got a comment to the group here regarding these satellites. It's been says that they've used a satellite for decades as a shift worker. And the libraries in Toronto have them. I did not know that.
I did not know that. That's interesting. I'll keep a lookout if I.
No, that's I've heard that the libraries have a lot more things that you can access than just book, but I never knew that they had that, and that's actually something that I would be interested in.
This reminds me, I haven't been to a library in 2 years, that I really miss being in one.
There's a reason to go.
Yeah.
Now, another great question here. Do all of the CFS offices have the same kind of services?
Catholic Family Services, more or less. more or less, but their protocols might vary. So I work for Catholic Family Services Peel-Dufferin, so I'm aware of the services we offer. I'm not really sure about the other offices, but they have more or less the same services. Maybe the number of sessions would differ, maybe the protocols would differ a bit, but more or less the same services, right? Their mission, the mission that they work towards is usually the same, right? So yeah.
I can tell you that they all, I believe, offer the same model where no one is turned away due to financial need. I know that that's a big concern for a lot of people because they hear like, oh, well, you know, this is going to break my budget. How am I possibly going to pay for this? What if it's really expensive and it doesn't work? And that could be sort of an obstacle for them. And I do know that I believe all of the CFS agencies in the Archdiocese of Toronto do offer a similar walk-in counseling model through phone or video that CFS Peel-Dufferin does.
Yep, 110%. And the walk-in sessions that you schedule are free of cost. So the first, even sometimes the second walk-in sessions are free of cost. And when it's evaluated that you know, one can't pay for the services, it's 100% covered for. Sometimes when we have this income level brackets, sometimes it's as low as $5 per session, $10 per session, right? So there's a lot of support available, I guess, but sometimes people are not aware about it, Chris. And, you know, because when you think about therapy, you think, oh my God, that's so expensive. I can't afford that. But yeah, through Catholic Family Services, nobody's turned away. I know that, yeah.
And one last question, unless another one rolls in. Some of us might be participating in this call, not so much for ourselves, but because there's a loved one who really struggles during this time. And what's the best approach when there's someone in your life, a friend or a family member who is really struggling? But of course, we know that there's stigma around mental health. We know we don't want to be too intrusive. What's the best approach when it's someone that we really care about, but we don't really know how to handle that?
Yeah, that's another good question, because I feel like sometimes when we're too worried about our loved ones, we can be a bit pushy about, why don't you go there? Why don't you see the family doctor? And they're like, you know, just leave me alone. And so it can be, your concern can sometimes be a bit, one can come across as a bit overbearing on the other person who's already struggling. So what we can do when we find ourselves with people or with our loved ones, friends struggling, the first thing that you need to do is just validate their experiences. So if somebody is telling you that they're struggling, just listen to them, actively listen to them, practice empathetic listening. And by empathy, I mean just put yourself in their shoes and think of things from their perspective, not yours. Because from your perspective, it might not look like something serious or something to worry about, but in their minds, they are worrying about this, and this is very real for them. So just saying that I hear you, I'm here for you, I understand, is very important, because sometimes a person just really, really needs to feel validated. We know when we were talking about struggling to enjoy the holiday season or doing this, there can be a lot of guilt and shame around this. People might be afraid to even share this because they have this fear of being judged. Being non-judgmental in your support is very important. Just be there, actively listen to them, share empathy, offer support. Like, hey, do you want me to call counseling services for you? Do you want me to help you make that call? If you're not ready, that's okay. If you need me, you can call me, right? So redirecting them to the right kind of support without being pushy is very important, because someone might be struggling to even make that call to the agency. So asking them, do you want me to do that for you? Because I can, right? When they say no, respect their no's, but just be there for them without offering too much advice or being judgmental or sharing your point of view. Just being there, validating their experiences and accepting their emotions is very important.
Question here regarding spiritual direction. A lot of people in the Catholic community have a spiritual director, whether it's a priest or a layperson. Does spiritual direction complement psychotherapy when seeking professional help? Because I know they're different, but how does that work?
It really depends on what you find strength from. You know, a lot of people find a lot of healing and support through spiritual means. And I've had a lot of clients who've told me, you know, I've talked to my priest, I've talked to my pastor, and I've found a lot of comfort in that. And we always emphasize their strengths and supports. So if this is somewhere where you derive support and strength from, why not? Along with psychotherapy. Sometimes that may not be enough, not because it's not adequate. It's 100%, 110%, I would say, you know, one of the best sources of support that you can get. Sometimes you may need something a bit different, somebody who's equipped to deal with depression through psychotherapeutic means, right? So that, along with spiritual healing, can do wonders, in my opinion. Because at the end of the day, it counts as one of your strengths, sources of where you derive strength from.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Mahnoor, for offering answers to these questions. One thing we will do is when we send the video to all the registered participants, I'll include the contact information for all of the Catholic Family Services agencies in the Archdiocese of Toronto. So if you'd like to reach out to one of them, you can do that. I'll include the website so you can have a look to see what services are available. I want to thank all of our participants for tuning in. I think this is a really, really important topic. And even just to kind of have that sense of solidarity that we all know that we're not the only ones that find this a difficult time of year. So I really appreciate all of you. And thank you again, Mahnoor, for sharing your expertise with us. I think that you provided a lot of encouragement, a lot of hope, and a lot of tools that will hopefully help make this Christmas season a happy one for us.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thank you for all the questions you sent out my way. I wish you have, you know, I wish you find the hope to see this holiday season with more positivity. But again, like I said, normalize every emotion, normalize every reaction. Thank you for being here. I understand it's a weeknight. I really enjoyed doing this. Thank you.